Okay, and I'm going to introduce Richard. As you can see on there, he is an award-winning entrepreneur, BBC's Apprentice finalist, keynote speaker, radio presenter, investor, and best-selling author. As mentioned, he was a finalist on The Apprentice 2015, where he was a top seller across all tasks and won 8 out of 10 tasks. His first 2 books both went to #1 on the Amazon bestseller. He's won Young Entrepreneur of the Year, Key Person of Influence award, and Marketing Campaign of the Year. So who better to speak to us today on lead generation and for today and the future. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to stop sharing, pass you over to Richard Woods, and John, if everyone's on chat, that will on mute, that would be great. And guys, Richard, over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Richard. And thank you, John, for inviting me, and welcome everybody. Amazing to see so many faces I recognize from back in the day when we were actually able to do some networking. And of course, welcome also to my $1 Million sprinters, who I know that there's a number of you I can see that have actually come in and joined us as well today. So fantastic to have kind of like a little bit of a party atmosphere on a Monday morning, eh? Rocking and rolling. Good stuff. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is very much looking at this whole concept. When this idea of COVID+5 was presented to me, actually I was really excited about it. I thought, well, that's quite nice. I can actually really dive into this thought process, this kind of forward thinking, you know, what's the future going to look like? And then from that, then how do we get there? And the beautiful thing about that is that I've been in that thought process recently before. Now let me share my screen and get my presentation. I'll show you why. Okay, so right to the end of the presentation. Here we go. And let me get up to see. So are we all seeing a nice presentation mode, and it's nice there? And can you actually see, you can see pictures of us now, which is great. Good stuff. Okay, so COVID+5. So what we'll do is look at what the world's going to look like in 5 years, okay? But let me take you all the way back to this day. So who wants to unmute and just tell me what's significant about June the 24th, 2016?
It's a bit hard to do that, Richard, because we can only see like 5 or 6 people at a time. So
no, unmute yourself and say.
No. I've put everyone on mute. Do you want me to take them all off?
No. Just they can do it manually.
Okay. There we go. Go for it.
Well, I'll tell you. It was my brother's wedding. It was my brother's wedding, which was significant about that day. It also happened to be this little known thing that was announced, which was called Britain have voted to leave the EU. So on the 24th of June 2016, we actually Brexited. Do you remember that sheepish picture of Michael Gove and Boris going onto a stage and almost apologising that actually we had all voted to remain? And that morning, we were doing our, it was a really wet morning actually. We're having to kind of get these pumps to pump out all the water from my brother's marquee on his reception. And my dad comes in and he's looking so emotional and he's so happy, his massive smile on his face. I was like, Dad, oh, it's amazing that Tim's getting married. And he's like, yeah, I know, but I'm even more happy because we Brexited. And I was like, all right then. But since that moment, I always voted to remain. I always thought that it'd be better to be inside the EU. I thought it'd be better for business, and that's what I want to do. But since that moment, I then beaverly worked around, well, actually, what is the next 5 years going to look like? What's business going to look like? What's the world going to look like? And actually it become so fascinated with it that I started to look at what does Brexit mean and what does it mean for me? And so I then wrote a book called Brexitpreneurship, How to Win from Brexit, and the entrepreneur around that, and launched that, and it went to #1. And here's one of our amazing hosts who looks slightly more clean cut than I recognized before, John there. And that's me talking at one of the Omni events. I think, I can't remember where that Omni event was, but it was an Omni event and talking about Brexitpreneurship. And the interesting thing about that book is that there's so many different things that were mentioned in there that are very much current for now. Brexit was a huge, what was supposed to be economic moment for us as a country, and it was completely overshadowed by this new COVID thing. But it doesn't mean that these two economic moments that have just happened in the last few years, they both bear the same challenges for us as business owners. They both bear the same potential for us as business owners. And that's what's so special about any kind of rocky sea that you find. The economy is a rocky sea at the moment. We are all navigating it. The whole global pandemic is a rocky sea, but actually when there are problems, there are also winners. And that's what we want to try and look at today. So that was 157 weeks ago, John, that we took that picture, and the challenges remain here. Interesting. Okay. And you definitely look a little bit more hairy now, John. So there you go. Right. Okay. So let's talk about one, where we're going to go in 5 years, and then two, at the end of this presentation, we're going to look at how you're going to win from this. Okay. Okay. So 2025. Wow. There's even a logo for it. So this is where we're going to be heading to, right? So the world of 2025 is going to be really, really interesting. Of course, we're all starting to see how things like your Alexas and your home hubs are starting to really dominate the smart home space. And so getting into that is going to be really interesting, but it's going to start to blow our kind of online lives away. So if you think about a Google search result, when you search for something at the moment, you have pages and pages of results. If I go, Alexa, find my local accountant, Alexa shows me one result. Now that's significant from my world as a marketeer, is because now you're trying to struggle for just being the only result, as opposed to being part of the page as a result. That's what people are searching for. When you look at the home hubs, there's apps and there's systems and there's softwares and stuff that's been developed. We just brought a washing machine that's a smart washing machine in our house at the moment. And I have no idea how this thing is going to actually get the laundry out of the basket and put it in it. And apparently it doesn't, I don't know. But you can turn it on using your iPhone. You can make this thing work using your iPhone. You can make your light switches, as we know, go on. We can make a number of things go on and start to actually interconnect. And so our world is going to become smarter. We also are going to be being electric. We predominantly, I think Ford announced by 2025 or 2026 that they wanted to only manufacture electric cars. And what I think the biggest thing that Elon Musk will be proud of when he actually looks back at his career isn't the fact that he invented PayPal or he had Tesla. Actually, the legacy of Tesla is that it forced Mercedes, BMW, all the rest of them to speed up their electric car operation. His actual legacy will be around, he was the catalyst for the electric car because he forced them to do that. And that's really significant. And so we're all going to be running into this electric space. And I think we all know that, and actually making the opportunity to do it. The smart office is also interesting. So there's a concept about, well, what are we going to return to after COVID? Well, actually, you've got this kind of hub and spoke thing where you're going to have, we're seeing this, one of our $1 million sprinters is Dan Moscow, and his company does huge kind of designs for office space for people like the TK Maxx HQ and a number of big offices. Now, he's saying that actually the trend is now to go to hub and spoke. And what that means for offices is you have a big company that will have an amazing hub for clients and a few special customers that will come into a London office, but it'll be far smaller than it is now. And then throughout each nation, it will have these little pods, little hubs and spokes. So these spokes will go out and you'll have smaller little regional kind of workspaces and drop-in spaces. So this kind of WeWork and this kind of co-working will be so much more used because, of course, what we're all doing, we're working at home, and so we're only popping in now and then for meetings, etc. So that co-working space will continue to rise. Something that another one of our sprinters, Emma Selby, who runs the Borden Hub, is very aware of, and actually she's working in that space to create more of these co-working spaces and to grow the business that way, because that's the trend, and I think we can all see that. But the other thing about the smart office, which is really interesting, and I wrote about this in Brexpreneurship, is that Sharp, the company Sharp, has develop this technology that actually will recognize who's coming into the building. So as a CEO comes into a building and is obviously the most expensive person there, the priority person, or as clients come into the building who are priority, what they'll do is they'll trigger then a set of systems that will prioritize the lifts for them. If it's the CEO coming in, it will prioritize the lift for them to be able to get in. It will start the coffee machine in the office so they've got their coffee there. It will ping up on their screen so they've got all their browser tab with all the things they want to. And so they are actually then minimizing the friction in terms of their journey from that parking garage all the way through to their office. And it was really fascinating to read this kind of process to actually prioritize different people based upon how much they're paying you, i.e. clients, or you're paying them, i.e. senior people within the business, and therefore everything works within the building to prioritize around that. It's actually quite a fascinating thing. So the office becomes incredibly smart. And of course, then cities themselves become smart. So traffic lights all working based upon the use of traffic. We're seeing this with smart lanes on the motorway, but actually having sensors all over things such as bins are able to tell the rubbish people when those bins are filled up. So they'll come and actually then fill those bins within towns. They're talking about creating these little small drones that will actually fly above a car and show you where the nearest parking space is within a city to be able to direct you into these parking spaces. All technology that's currently been trying now. Really, really interesting. So the smart city is here. And why and how? Who knows this? So unmute yourself and tell me what this is. Someone can shout out what this is. Or have we got an unmuting problem? Well, I can see Alice.
That's a what do you call it? Something for inside, like a little electronic. I've just gone.
NFC.
This is a quantum computer.
Quantum computer.
Exactly. And the significant thing about this is that we're talking about AI and all these huge things and actually how it's going to work and what is going to drive it. This little small microchip here is about the same processing power as a third of a data center. A third of a data center on that. And quantum computing, it's actually mind-blowing when you go into the data of how much faster quantum computing is able to compute data. And so when you think about things like all the information that's coming out of COVID at the moment, all of the trends, all of the global tests, is able to actually take that big data set and actually make sense of it to be able to bring forward successes in these vaccines. But it's not just going to be for that. Big data is going to be able to crunch the numbers for cancer, for other types of illnesses. It's going to be able to create AI. It's going to actually completely revolutionize how the stock exchange is going to work, because nothing's going to be able to go as fast and to make decisions as quickly. So day trading will be a thing of the past. Quantum computing is absolutely revolutionary in terms of actually how we can go and crunch data and go faster. So when everybody thinks, well, how can we go quicker? This thing just actually changed the games, and quantum computing is going to be the thing that's going to be the trigger between everything we just discussed. And of course, there's always these things as well. So money, do you know what the problem is with money? Is that governments get in the way. So what happened when we did the recession in 2007? The US just decided to do a massive quantitative easing. Let's print some more money. So what does that do? Well, everybody that had a load of money was then suddenly their currency got devalued because the government just printed some more because they were in economic problems, right? But that doesn't seem right. So when you want to put true wealth into something, you would buy something like gold, for example, because gold is a finite amount, but yet they're still digging bits up, right? Whereas if you think about Bitcoin, there is only so many codes that make up a Bitcoin. A blockchain is literally has an end to it because there's only so many numbers within a blockchain. And the beauty of that is that wealth can actually be put into it. So when we think about Bitcoin, is it going to be here to stay? It is. This technology is fundamentally shifting how people are actually be able to store wealth, because it is finite and it's not government controlled, it's decentralized, so nobody can just go and print more, nobody can take it away from you. The other thing about blockchain is that it has far more interesting uses than just wealth. Wealth's the kind of gateway to it, but actually what's really interesting is if you think about all these problems about privacy, right? So if you're Facebook, etc., and this comes back to our marketing question for this whole presentation. If you think about things like Facebook, if you think about things like all these data breaches because people are getting your data stolen, or people are using advertising to sell your attention on Facebook. So you're scrolling through Facebook, an advertiser like me will put an advert out, and then bam, I can actually then see it and might press on it, etc., and go for it. Now, I don't mind ads because actually I do want to know when the latest Harlequins rugby shirt is being released so I can go and buy one, or I do want to know there's a special offer to go on a ski holiday for whatever it is, because it's tailored towards me. The problem is when someone's advertising nappies to me and they don't kind of know that I'm there. So it's incorrect advertising, and it's actually someone using my data to advertise to me. The blockchain is really, really interesting. So if you say that this is my chain and that's all my data, now I own my data, so why does someone else get to sell my data? Because I happen to want to use Facebook. So the new Facebook, which won't be Zuckerberg's one, it will be some other one, will be a blockchain related Facebook. So everybody will upload their profile, and that's me, and that's my data. And then the advertisers will have to pay me to advertise to me in the same way that advertisers pay Facebook to get my attention to advertise. Actually, in blockchain, I own my data. And so therefore I allow only access to whoever I want into that data. And if they get access, they can advertise to me, but therefore they have to get access by paying me. I know it's kind of a little bit mind-blowing, but it's a decentralized way of doing things. So everybody gives up their profile and their photos and stuff into Facebook, but not Zuckerberg owns it. We all own it. So it almost becomes like a collective, and we all profit share in the basis. That's how blockchain will truly be used. Think about the problem with digitizing the NHS. Massive problem with digitizing the NHS. Thousands of pounds being spent on that. And what do we get? Nothing. I can't even get any of my data put across to anybody in the NHS. But if you actually then decentralize the information for my medical, and I own my medical records, and then I give access to the doctors, whoever I use, through private NHS, or if I'm on holiday to Prague or whatever, and bam, they need to use it, the blockchain will be where the medical records get paid, and then I'm in control of it. Anyway, so interesting, right? And also, of course, the most important thing is, where's our bloody hoverboards? That's what I want to know. By now, we should have hoverboards. We all know that. But yet we do. We have hoverboards. It's awesome. And this will only get more commercial. And of course, we do also have flying cars. X Prize, which gives big grants out to competitions, did an X Prize for flying cars. And there's a number of flying cars now in the market. So we will have flying cars and hoverboards. Awesome. Who's going to make these difference? So we talk about this millennial generation is probably over talked about, but essentially in 2025, the millennial generation will be starting to take the main jobs and be taking that kind of management role, which will be quite interesting because, of course, that's the first generation that's truly grown up as a technology-enabled social networking type generation, and it will become the reason why things start to go faster on that social side as well. Right. So this is how you win. I'm just conscious that I've got 10 minutes to tell you how you win. So we're going to go for it, right? Okay, there's 11 ways that I discussed how you're going to win. Let's move myself out of the way. It's 11 steps to winning between now and 2021. And here they are listed here. So I'm going to rattle through them and go on a little bit of an explanation per one. Right. Radiate positive vibes. So the whole point is positivity is the thing that's going to get us through there. You all know that positivity attracts people to you like a magnet. So people that are kind of down in the dumps about what's happening with COVID, it's just, pick yourself off the floor and go for it, because actually those are the people that are getting the audience and getting the attention and getting the positivity. I know it's simple, but it is so vitally important. People like moaners hang out with moaners, happy people hang out with happy people. So which one do you want to be in? You make the decision. Get a mentor and be a mentor. God knows I've skipped so many years of mistakes by having decent mentors. And I know that I help other people skip so many years of heartache and mistakes that I've made because I actually mentor them. And actually me, myself now is continually pushed by my own mentees because they are doing amazing things. And I'm almost running to try and keep pace or be able to actually give them ideas. And so there's something massively enabling about having your own mentees as well as being mentored. So do dive into it, get yourself a coach. What gets measured gets improved. This is one of my heroes, and that's John Wanamaker. And he's an amazing, Peter Drucker. One of my heroes, John Wanamaker, talked about half the money I spend on advertising works. The trouble is I don't know which half. And Drucker said, what gets measured gets managed, right? And so put those two things together. In today's world, we've got tracking numbers, we've got analytics, we've got data, we've got all this information and those clever things like those quantum computers, which you don't even need to worry about. They'll just be doing the information when you ask them to do. You can get the data of how many leads you're getting, how many sales you're getting from that, what's your return on investment for your marketing, what gets measured gets managed. And so therefore use the data and actually start leaning into that. Vitally important, and it's all there for you and easy to do. Think globally. I have a graphic designer that works for me full time. She lives in the Philippines. I've got American people that work for me. I've got a number of people that in the UK, and actually one of the loveliest people that's really helped me out recently, Lindsay, she's in Birmingham. And I don't think I'd ever have had her when I had my office back in the day before COVID. And so it's actually now thinking globally for your staffing, but also thinking globally for your clients. I've got just came off sales calls from people in Belarus on Friday and also in the States. And so we're looking to two different clients, both looking to come onto the $1 Million Sprint accelerator. And so therefore we have a global economy, both for staffing, for suppliers, and also for clients. So think that way. It will take the shackles off and just go for it. We are a global economy. There's no excuse for not thinking globally. And innovation is great. Remember, and this is coming back to kind of the roots of this presentation, which was about the Brexit stuff, but the UK government has been chomping at the bit to put out this Great Britain campaign, and they've been running it since that 2016, and they're still running it. And you got to remember that actually, because you're in the UK, you don't realize it, millions have been spent on this campaign globally to show how knowledge is great, shopping is great, innovation is great, everything about Great Britain is great, and the country is doing this on our behalf. So when you think about thinking globally, you're thinking, well, why does anybody actually want to use us as a British company? Well, because you don't realize how well respected we are as a commodity. Now, but don't get me wrong. I mean, I love rugby. So with the Six Nations on, I know how much people actually hate the English as well. But the point being is that actually, as a great British country, there is so many things that go. Think about our legal system as the legal system of many of the countries around the world. Language, cultural bits, you know, our music, our art, etc. goes out. Our universities are some of the most respected in the world, so therefore our knowledge is thought upon as being an amazing thing. You know, we are the origin of many sports, and so if you actually start to take that and use that for your advantage, you will realize that actually there's doors slightly open for you just because you're a British company. You know, we always think about this about American companies. Oh, an American tech company, they'll do really well over here. Well, actually, do you ever flip it around and go, well, they're an English knowledge-based company. They should do really well over that, or they should do this, etc. It's good. Alistair's probably there going, no, mate, we don't like me. What's that, brew? Oh, good. Okay, so innovate, innovate, innovate. And so the whole point of this as well is that we have to innovate, right? We have to go online. We have to get this Zoom stuff working for us. We have to bring and translate whatever you were doing before into a post-COVID world. And so actually that allows you to do innovation. Actually, strangely enough, if you think about what you've done recently in terms of transitioning online, there could even be R&D tax credits that you could be claiming for this type of innovation that you've been doing. You could be getting actually tax credits back, because you've had to bring some of your services along, because you've had to use technology, doing processes in a different way. But don't stop that learning, keep on innovating, because actually the playing field is leveled because everybody's had to transition. And so just transition fast and innovate, and think about that. That could be in the way that you do processes, how you do set goals, how you put management in place, how you bring teams together. Keep on innovating, it never stops. And also demonstrate thought leadership. The more you can talk about actually what you're doing now and what COVID means for your industry, what actually does that mean as a financial service advisor, what is the best, new thing to actually invest in. As an accountant, how do you work COVID in a similar way? As a virtual assistant, what does actually COVID mean, or et cetera, et cetera. And the more you talk about it, the more that you show leadership, the more that actually people start to look up for you for knowledge, and of course, therefore, they'll come and buy from you. So do always put thought leadership, and that doesn't just mean out there in the market, that also means into your teams as well. Show thought leadership to your teams, so your teams keep on coming to you and know that actually you're an innovative company and a good company to work for. Okay, and negotiate and do deals. So there is going to be so many companies, the baby boom generation want to get rid of their businesses, okay? Because they've come to the end of their careers, they've got businesses and they need to sell it. The problem is with a lot of the people that are the millennial generation is they've kind of stuttered around now, and there's not those kind of, they're starting out in the market. So there's this slice in the middle that actually that have businesses that have kind of been around a block, us lot, basically, that can look at these businesses and go, well, actually, is there a deal here? Can I buy a deal? This is me buying boiler servicing 24/7 when Brexit happened the first time, and this guy unfortunately started to lose the business. And I grew that in the last few years, and I sold it at the end of last year and made money on the base of that. Now, I don't know how to run a boiler. Well, I know how to run a boiler serving business now, but I didn't know how to change a boiler. I still can't change a boiler, but I was able to scale that business and sell it. And we have done with a website development company and also our old agency, Yomp, as well. So the point being here, gang, is that there's deals out in the market to pick up businesses. So you could clamp on companies, do businesses, and they are more motivated because of the rocky seas, because this is now the time to negotiate and do deals. And get government incentives. So you've got the LEP network and bounce back loans and Kickstarter scheme where you can get like a free employee from who's a young person wants to join. And as I said, also remember that this exporting is great campaign, a UK trade and investment. The UK cannot stop exporting. So they're throwing money at people who can export. And that's not just product, that's services, because we're a service-based economy. So if you want to export your coaching or your virtual assistants or your whatever it is globally, there is incentives and money and budget, because the government needs to get foreign money into our economy, because it can't just survive off itself. So dive into it, gang. The local enterprise partnership, your LEP, is a good place to start, but there's also the UK Trade Investment. Reach out to these guys. Honestly, there's lots of budget for us small businesses to work in. Okay, so celebrate the success of your customers. So this is a lovely story about someone from the Cambridge Satchel Company, and Google picked her up and actually started to present to her, so present her more globally, and her business really took off because Google celebrated the success of their customer. Now, that's a nice story for Google and for the Cambridge Satchel Company, but actually you should be doing the same thing. You don't need to tell people how bloody great you are. Tell people about how amazing your clients are and what they're doing. And so therefore, it will then start to rub off on you, because you're celebrating the success of your customers. You're not blowing your own trumpet, right? Okay. And then finally, because I can see Richard twitching in the corner there, finally, we're at time. But be relentless in the face of adversity. Just remember, all these amazing companies started in garages and on desks that were made out of scrap bits of woods. And now is the next billionaire company, the next $1 trillion valuation company will probably be started now, because other ones were started in dips. The next one's going to be started now. So why can't it be you? So just think about that. And you got to remember that I love to finish. This is one of my greatest heroes, Hillary Edmund Hillary and his friend there, Tamsin Norgate. And these two people are the two people that summited Everest first. So when you start to look at these challenges, it might feel like climbing Everest because we are only small little businesses, and we're just using these examples of huge technology or huge billionaires that are doing well. But actually, they all started there. And when you start to look at your Everest, you think, wow, but these two together found their way up. Now, Tamsin Norgay, the Sherpa, was able to help Hillary find him, say, all the way over to this little nodule on my top left-hand corner. Now, that is a massive bit of rock that goes out the side of Everest. And everybody that's got to that point before had either turned back because they couldn't get over it or died trying. And Norgay was able to get Hillary there, but Hillary, being a slightly taller, more gangly New Zealander, was able to get himself up and over for the first time, really lent into it, committed to the challenge, committed to the summit, and hauled himself up over this bit of rock, and then reached back down for his smaller Sherpa that would never have ever been able to get over it, but Hillary would never have got there without him, pulled him back up, and the two friends then summited Everest together. And I love that story. And today that rock is called a Hillary Shelf. And sometimes growing your business is like trying to get over your own Hillary Shelf. You've got to really commit, really go for it, and really get over it, but never forget who helped you to get there, and always hand back to bring them up with you. So important. So there's no better way to finish this part of the presentation than with Sir Edmund Hillary himself. He said, people do not decide to become extraordinary, they decide to accomplish extraordinary things. You too can decide to accomplish extraordinary things, and the work starts today. Thank you, everybody. I do appreciate that, and that's the formal end of this presentation.
It would help if I unmuted, wouldn't it? Thanks, Richard. Really appreciate your time this morning. Can you come off screen share, Richard, so we can get everybody back on screen?
Yeah, that's lovely. I do have my +5.
Oh, okay.
If that's, I thought this was the bit that I could then explain. If you, so the way Richard told this about me, that there's a presentation with a +5, which says a bit about my business, and it will be +2. I'll give you 2, and then I'll put it out for presentations. Okay, so I run the $1 Million Sprint. It's a business accelerator. It helps people to go from some income to $1 million in revenue and beyond. Why is it in dollars? Because actually we're a global business. We're thinking globally, as I said in the presentation. So what does that mean for you? Well, £64,000 per month is a $1 million business, and that's a fun place for a business to be in. It allows the owner to be able to take a decent amount home. It sorts out all those kind of silly cars in the driveway and big houses stuff. It's a really nice revenue goal for a small business to have, and it's not as hard as you realize. My $1 Million Sprinters will be very familiar with this journey. So this is our $1 Million Sprint journey. So the Hall of Fame is the target. We want to go for that $84,000 a month, £64,000, and we start off. It's like Olympic Games. So you start off in qualification. Once you qualify through, you do the preliminaries. So that might be things like build an info swap, generate some traffic, formalize a sales process, launch a flagship. All modules that we have within the $1 Million Sprint. And then once you go up through the heats, heat 1, 5K per month, 10K per month, heat 2, 20K per month. And then our gold medal race is to get you to 40K per month, and then into the Hall of Fame. That's what we do. And to back it up, because we've got Olympic style events, we've got these Olympic tickets. So each ticket takes you to the training to help you to do those things, right? So this is event number 4, which is about a flagship product. So how do you create a product that actually is capable of selling £64,000 per month? This is an example. This is event 12. This is about a prospector. How do you recruit someone to actually do your prospecting and actually find those opportunities? Or finally, I'll show, let's show something different. LinkedIn prospecting. So this is actually, how do you then actually go out to LinkedIn and find opportunities and do direct messaging and get leads out of there. There's things like Facebook ads, Instagram advertising. There's a whole bundle of different things. And we meet every single working day with our clients, which is why you'll see someone to this call to talk to them about how they can actually grow their business and improve their business. We've got some amazing success stories of people that are scaling their businesses already, even in COVID. We've got somebody, I think I was just on the call, Gokai from Gokai Fitness, who was just him at the beginning of March. or beginning of last year, and he's scaled to 4 PTs now, or a team of 4 working for him, doing more PT sessions than it would be physically possible for him himself to be able to do it. We've got people that were doing, we had one client that did in the weekend £128,000 sales launch in one weekend of her product at the end of last year. So there's lots of great success stories. We're really delighted to be helping people. So if you too want to think about how you can scale to 1 million and beyond, just email in the title 2025 to my personal email, which is rw@milliondollar-sprint.com, and I'll send you over the info pack, which is this, which will tell you all about it, and we can book a strategy session where I can show you how to actually step-by-step scale your business to 1 million. That's it. That's the little +5 for you. So I'll stop sharing.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time this morning. Let's just give Richard a round of applause, guys. Sorry, it's a bit quiet, Richard.
It's all good.
Right, guys.
That's louder than my normal ones.
We've got. We're probably going to run over a little bit, but if anybody's got any questions, if you just probably got time for 4 or 5 questions, Richard, if that's okay, if you could just unmute yourself and ask the questions. I'll try and take them in order. I can't see anybody asking at the moment. Anybody got a question? If I'm missing you, then just please. Oh, Peter, you got one, Peter Smith?
Well, I'll start things off, Richard. And Richard, that was absolutely brilliant. And when Richard and I were discussing you coming on board, you know, we thought you'd be good, but you're even better than I anticipated anyway. So thanks very much for the presentation.
Very kind.
You covered such a lot of, such a wide area there. Suppose a young lad comes along, he's perhaps he's just come straight out of college or straight out of university, and he says to you, Richard, I've absolutely no idea what to do. What do you think? I'd like to run my own business. Where do you think I should start? What should I actually do that will make me a millionaire in the next 5 years?
Well, the most important thing, this is why I say I do speak at a number of universities, and I say, forget everything else other than finding an industry sector you're kind of remotely interested in, and then find the entrepreneur that's doing incredibly well within that industry sector, and ask to go and be, there to have some sort of almost like placement, like a work placement there. Don't ask for any money. Don't do anything. Just give your time for free. I remember this amazing guy called Peter who, it wasn't his real name. He's Israeli. And he came over to our office in Bagshot a few years ago. And he was only 16, and he just come over from Israel, could barely even talk English. And he waited outside in the rain reading a book whilst I finished a meeting, and I could see him at the top because we were upstairs, to see him there. So who is this kid outside? And he just came in, he was like, and he just said, look, I'd love to come and do a work placement there. And I was so blown away by this guy's attitude that, he ended up spending loads of time with me. I gave him so many ideas, so many shortcuts. He got free access to all of my online courses, free access to everything. And his attitude was amazing. And all he did in return was kind of help me take a few notes and take some photos at events and put some chairs out and stuff. And, he was just amazing, to see that much of a fantastic attitude in someone that could barely speak the language, who was over here because his father was on a placement, with work. And I just was blown away, and I still have regular chats with him. So that's what I would say to a young person: find a mentor and offer your time up to them and ask for nothing in exchange, and wonderful things will then happen.
Thanks, Richard. That was brilliant.
Thanks, brilliant. Alistair, do you want to mute yourself?
Richard, I have a very important question to ask you. In the next battle between England and South Africa in rugby, who's going to win?
Really interesting, because South Africa have been chickens since they won the World Cup. They haven't played a game. So
I don't think we've been chicken. We've been picking up bits of corn to build our strength.
No. If you won't play in the Tri Nations after winning a World Cup, then that's chicken. I think the more interesting thing is how the Lions are going to do, and so
that's going to be interesting.
They'll wipe the floor with you.
I think. Well, you think so? Well, we look forward to that with anticipation.
You do.
And I mean the reverse, that is. But I think thing which I really liked about your talk, Richard, and thanks for sharing some of those thoughts with us, was the idea of the businesses that you were selling, particularly for, because one of the key things that I think a young person needs if they want to be an entrepreneur is that opportunity. And often to start off from scratch is very, very hard. And actually, if you can get into a business and use that business as a way going forward as a young person, learn your trade and then buy that business, that's a very good way of already getting yourself into an established business and then growing that and moving that business into a new market. How would you recommend a young person goes about doing something like that?
Well, you can buy businesses for no money or next to no money. The boiler servicing business that we had, the guy was in such bad issues that he was about to go under. So I agreed a deal with him to kind of take the business, and I managed to kind of buy the assets from the business, the website and the brand from the business, but actually the business then, he carried on with the business and obviously just put it into liquidation. So it meant that I got most of the assets from the business out for less money, for about 15 grand. We took it out there. Now, I then went on and sold a number of the vans and made 30 grand. So actually I was paid 15 grand to buy a business. And those type of deals can only be done if you give the time and the energy and build the rapport with the owner to be able to actually make stuff happen. Now, don't get me wrong, they're not just sitting there around and you've got to work hard for it. But it's not like everybody thinks. You don't have to actually spend big amounts on actually buying a business. People are there to do deals. So that's an extreme point, because he was going under anyway. So it was a business that was fated to be bankrupt, and a website of a bankrupt business is worth nothing anyway. So at least he was able to pay some creditors back with that cash. The other type of thing is that you can think about no money down deals and businesses. So actually, if you say to someone that owns it, look, I'll strike a deal with you to buy your business for £500,000, and I'm going to repay that at 50k a month for 10 months or whatever, that people are willing to do that as long as there's some assurances, etc. in it, and then you can make sure there's a decent run rate on that business, the turnover's there, etc. And then you can start to leverage up once you get into a business. Then you can buy businesses for no money down. They just got to believe in the person that's actually going to do it, which obviously creates the problem if it's a young person. But those are bigger numbers. Someone might actually go and take on a smaller business, and just do a deal with an owner that actually kind of wants to move on from a small business. But when you know that you're the owner and you are the business, it's very difficult to find a plan to lead that business other than just closing it down. Whereas if you have a young person who will come on and say, look, let me run side by side with you for 6 months, you introduce me to all your connections and the way you do things, and then I can take the business on for you, and then maybe give you a consultancy agreement for just helping me further in the future, then that's another way. And you as the person, if you're in that position, you want to move yourself from your business, you could actually find a young person and you could be proactive and find that person and do that in the same way. Essentially, you need someone to keep the money coming in, and you need to have a deal where you get your capital event at the end of your business, but it doesn't have to happen in one chunk.
Richard,
I suppose
Hang on, Christine's got a question, Richard.
one last one if you've got time. Hi, my name's Christine. My company is Quist. I design interiors and architecture for creatives and entrepreneurs. So I'm just really, really interested to know, as if you were a client, what's your biggest pain point when it comes to taking on someone else to provide a service for you?
I don't think I have a pain point when I'm trying to take on service. The thing is, when you actually think about when you sell to someone, so we flip on the other side. When you sell, you only ever sell on a future-based cause. You got to sell on this new world. And so, for example, you see me talking about helping people on a journey to $1 million in revenue and beyond. So when someone buys, they're actually buying a future that is completely targeted around being $1 million business. And so therefore, if you find the right type of people, and actually it's me that then is more vetting the people coming into my business to make sure that I can achieve the $1 million in revenue and beyond for their business, not them actually vetting me. So if you then take that and flip it around, you need to make sure that you only work with creatives that are capable of having an award-winning office. And the design of that award-winning office will be around a number of criteria. It's got to be this, this, and this. And so if the person you're speaking to isn't a good fit for you because you want to win awards for your work, then you vet them out. So therefore, what happens is it's supply and demand. So therefore, people are like, oh, please come and work with you because I really want to have an award-winning office. I want to have all these cool things that you're talking about, this thought leadership you're putting out about that. And so therefore, you then create a magnet for inquiries as opposed to hoping someone might actually take a punt on you, etc. Does that make sense?
It does, thank you. I'm in the middle of this process, sort of really niching down my ideal client and the marketing strategy and pivoting into online sales. So that's really helpful. Thank you.
I was going to say, it sounds like the sort of thing that I help people do on that strategy session. So if you are interested, do book on those. There's all complimentary. There's no kind of like, don't worry. It's time that I like spending with people to be able to help them to look at that.
That would be great. Thank you. If you what was your email address again? Did you say to drop me an email?
RW, Richard Wood. So it's rw@milliondolarsprint.com.
Lovely. Thank you.
Richard, thank you so much, my friend. I really appreciate what you've done today, mate. We'll catch up in the week, but I've got to go. So thank you very much, guys. Richard and Peter,